All right, good evening, everyone. My name is NISHANT DIXIT. I am Principal Solutions Architect with Treasure Data, and this is my second year speaking at Big Data London. Last year was smaller and less warm. This year is a lot warmer and a lot bigger, so it's growing in every way possible, even with global warming. Anyway, the topic that I'm going to present today is choosing the right CDP. Last year, I presented a topic which was how to get rid of data silos, and a very important topic for beginners who are just starting to understand the entire scale, the entire ecosystem of all the different MarTech solutions from CRMs to DMPs and everything. Really good way to get started. But this year, we're going to take it one step ahead, and we're going to talk about what are the different things that can be done earlier in the stage when you're choosing a CDP, right? When you're choosing a CDP, obviously, there are a lot of different components, and one of them we're going to go into right after this. But before we get there, obviously, just saying that I'm a solutions architect doesn't suffice. So I've been in MarTech for about more than 10 years now. I've been specifically in customer data platforms for about 5 years, a bit more than 5 years. I've gone through few CDPs in my career, so it's not just landed in the first one and just talking good about it. I've actually worked with other CDPs to understand and compare what are the good things, what are the bad things. And this is not a pitch for Treasure Data. This is just a pitch where, as an architect, I really wish that my prospects would have had these set of questions or these set of tricks that would help them answer some of the questions that would then make it easier for them to choose a CDP, right? So let's get started. I'm going to give you a few pro tips when you go through this. So the pro tip 1 or pro tip 0 is when you're looking for a CDP, know the definition of a CDP. I've even in this event today and in my many years, this is one of the most common question as well as misconception that comes across. Oh, what is a CDP? What are you really looking for? And don't go into reading all of this. I'll just summarize the 3 main bullet points here. A CDP is, and this is by the CDP Institute, so you could just go on their website and look at more of these stuff. But it's a packaged software that creates a persistent, unified customer database which is accessible to other systems. There is a reason that I've put packaged software, persistent UCD, and accessible to other systems in different bullet points outside. And the reason is we're going to challenge each of them for some of the other vendors out there who call themselves a CDP, right? But might be missing one of these components. And then it's not a blame game. We're not going to go into, who has what and who doesn't. But we're going to understand, in order to evaluate a proper CDP, do we really need to look at, does it have all the components of a packaged software? Does it give you a persistent unified customer database or unified customer view? And then, is it accessible to other systems within your own ecosystem and outside as well, right? A very quick summary, because a lot of people ask, when did this thing come up? When did CDPs become such a big deal? Because everybody now is stop talking about DMPs and they're talking about CDPs. Some of them are even talking about composable CDPs, greener CDPs. So there's a lot of evolution that has happened. And I just wanted to, look at the timeline of from where we first started collecting first-party and third-party data to today, where we're actually augmenting it with AI and machine learning. We're augmenting it with a lot of real-time decisions. And everybody keeps asking, can you do RT decisioning? Can you do RT triggering? Can you do RT unification? But we're going to challenge that, not because we can or we can't, but because is it really necessary in your use cases? When you look at a big company, and we'll take 6 scenarios right after this, where in each of the different scenario, we'll look at what were the use cases and why did it require a CDP and why did it require whether they should have a real-time trigger or whether they could just go with batch CDP as well. Again, this is nothing to, have anything negative against the companies who are proposing batch or real time. It's nothing to do anybody against composable. It is just to give you a good view to understand what are the different criteria or checkpoints that you could have in your mind when you're looking for one. All right, so like I said, we're going to go through 6 different scenarios. And in each of these scenarios, we're going to go through what happened, where did it lead to, and then just a pro tip so that you can understand, oh, this is why we need to think about a particular thing, right? So the first one here, and again, imagine these are fictitious companies because we don't want to place blame or we don't want to talk about what happened and how. So imagine this first company, we'll take a banking customer, right? Let's take a big banking customer. We came into this RFP. We were talking about a lot of real time. Oh, we want real time this and we want real time that. Everything has to go through APIs. Brilliant, love it. Treasure Data does a lot of real time, so I was very happy and excited to get into that. But then we were like, all right, that's your business use case. That's what you want. Let's go back and start peeling the layers of your data sources, your data system, your ecosystem. Now, if any of you and all of you have at one point worked with banks, you know, not long ago, they used to work on mainframes. Some of them still do work on mainframes. They've moved a bit more towards having some cloud infrastructure and everything. But still, a lot of their systems are connected with legacy software that can't handle real-time data, that can't handle real-time decisions or real-time activities, right? So in order to understand that, yes, your aspirations might be that you want to be real-time, you want to go into banking, and you just click on something and you'll get an offer that says, oh, you get a new savings account because you've had more than 10,000 pounds in your account. But at what point can your infrastructure support that, right? So pro tip 1 is try tailoring your RFP based on your current as well as your desired tech stack. Nobody's saying that you shouldn't have ambitions of going real time. We're just saying that given your current tech stack, take baby steps, right? Go from crawl, walk, and then start running. And that's what this is when you just hear buzzwords around real time, API, can we do streaming, can you do IoT? We can do everything. Do you really want to buy an expensive solution that you can't use for the next 3 years, right? So that's something that you need to think about when you're looking at these things. Scenario 2, and I honestly, if at any point, if you have any anecdotes or something that you've had in your life as well, please do just say it and we can have a conversation. This is not meant to be a boring monologue, so please do feel free to just say, yeah, that makes sense, or no, things are moving in a different direction. I agree with both of them, to be honest. Anyway, so we're going to go into scenario 2, where we're going to talk about a slightly different thing than just real-time and APIs. We're going to talk about a situation where we were working with a retail customer. And sometimes with retail global customers, there are situations where you have seasonal peaks. Black Friday, Cyber Monday, New Year's, many other different times in the year where otherwise your volumes would not be so high. But during these times, they can go 3x, 5x, even 10x. So we're talking to this vendor or this prospect who has an incumbent CDP, and we're challenging it, right? Because at the end of the day, in a sales cycle, you are challenging whoever is in the market or whoever is as the incumbent. So they were very happy with it. They were like, no, they do real time, they do RT, and they do a lot of next best actions, next best offers. Like, brilliant, that's really good. We matched all of it. Now, when it comes down to parity, 100 and 100 on both of those, it's a heavier lift to bring somebody new. There is adoption, there's all of those things. So we had to go out of the box and had to find something that would differentiate us. So one of the questions that my SC ended up asking was, what about peak times? What happens in Black Friday? Do you still have those web personalization banners, and do you still have all of those fancy things happening? And their director of solution architecture goes, no. During peak times, we break everything down into small CSVs because we just can't handle that, right? And we go, wait, but then why are you, does it even make sense if we are talking about large volumes, and if you still can't maintain the latency that you have promised, are you really sure that you want to go with a CDP that can't scale with your needs? Because right now, we are looking at your peak periods. The growth and the ambition is that your peak periods become your regular transactions. and then maybe 10x more when you go to peak periods, right? So if you can't scale with the industry, if you can't scale with the customer, then we need to do something else. So one of the things that we recommended to them, and that's pro tip number 2, is test or simulate these large volume scenarios when you're going into an RFP, when you're looking for different vendors. Look for this particular thing where you push 2 million, 10 million, 100 million records into a sandbox environment, and can you still achieve those kind of results? I know a lot of people might be like, yeah, but sandbox is not meant to, but your platform is meant to, right? So that's a smaller version of what you're going to ingest every day. Make sure that you do some stress testing. Make sure that you do some large volume testing. All right, the next scenario is, and this is something that's coming up a lot nowadays. There's this, and there's the next one. I love talking about those. I have a lot of unfiltered opinions about it. I'm not going to share it with you right now because it will be very controversial if I get there. But let's look at this third scenario. We're going to look at this vendor or this prospect was in the automotive industry, right? In the automotive industry, and some others as well, you have a lot of data that you sometimes want to stream at runtime, at dynamic, because this is IoT data. Your car carburetor is running, your air filters are running. You want to push this data out. And it's not because this data is very relevant to CDP, but it's relevant to the fact that you are monitoring your customers' cars. You are monitoring your customers' vehicles. It shows a level of personal detail that I don't think otherwise is very visible, right? So we're talking to this automotive customer. The business side is looking for a CDP solution, and the tech team is having completely separate conversation on their own, and they go, why should we go with the CDP when we are building our own? And I'm like, that's a good point. Don't. If you don't want to go for a CDP, there needs to be a buy-in from business as well as IT, right? So one of the most important things that you need to understand is that in order to marry your business with IT, which never happens, they're always on the different spectrums, you need to actually bring them together and ask few questions. And one of the things that I always ask people is, when people talk about customer data platforms and CDPs and web personalization, it's not always marketing use cases that need to just end the conversation there. When you talk about a CDP, you're talking about infrastructure cost. You're talking about the personal connection that a customer success manager or an account director is giving your account. You're talking about global support that you should be receiving, whether you have an issue in Japan at 7 p.m. Japanese Pacific time, or you have an issue in Australia, or you have an issue in the US, you should be able to get that level of service at any point in time. So your CDP is not just a software that you're selling, but you're selling a service which is far more important than you just building your own infrastructure and saying, you know what, this suffices, right? So when you have these things in your mind, when IT has DIY in its mind, when you know that you're coming across you're coming across as competition to the very people that are trying to buy your software, you need to evaluate the entire package, and they need to rate themselves too, right? Because it's very important in this process that we go in, we say, look, we can do X, Y, and Z. They compare us against the 3 other CDPs that are out there in the market. Are they comparing themselves against those CDPs as well? Because if they're looking at, oh, I have my own DIY, I can push out these lists, I've created microservices, web services, anybody can use APIs and get the data out, what happens if your system just goes down? You have to go to AWS or Google or somebody else, and then you keep chasing SLAs, you keep chasing people. What we do with Treasure Data or with any other CDP is you bundle all of those things together and give you an experience. And I feel, in my opinion, that experience is as important as having a tool that helps you with your marketing strategies. Again, like I said, this and the next one are slightly controversial topics where people will be like, yeah, no, but we are saving a ton of money. You charge more because you need to make a margin as well. But yes, everybody needs to make money. Everybody needs to be in the industry. But you also need to make sure that you have immense amount of resources, you have immense amount of people who are dedicated to build this by themselves. I've actually recommended to people on both occasions, Go with an in-house CDP if you want to, if you can scale it, if you can work with it, if your business is happy with your demand. Because IT sometimes, and I being an IT person as well, fail to understand that marketers are looking for really intuitive, nice, simple tools which can make their lives easier, not depend on IT again in a new, different way, right? So always make sure that you're evaluating the entire package of all of these services, and you're also evaluating yourself in that process with the other CDPs. The next one's, again, like I said, it's one of my favorites. It's as controversial as it is becoming nowadays to talk about composable CDPs. I know there are so many out in this very event right now who would have this argument with me. I think we'd probably sit down, go for 2 hours, 3 hours, 3 rounds, and just talk about how we are better than them or they are better than us. At the end of the day, what really matters is where you are in your maturity of selecting and going through the process of a CDP, right? Composable CDPs, and again, I'm just putting facts out in front of you. There are good things about composable, there are bad things about composable. I'll even give you an example where we lost a deal to a composable CDP, and when we were losing the deal, I went to the prospect and said, you made the right decision. Because they were in that place in their journey where they had done all of the heavy lifting, where they were already contracting a lot of different vendors, and all they needed was something to sit on top of their already existing data warehouse and data lake. In that case, don't compete. Don't try to find something. Don't try to push your product in, because nobody's going to be happy. My job as an architect is not just to keep selling my product. It's be an advocate to the customer as well. And I really do that. I don't know if this might sound cheesy or cheeky when I say it, but it is actually true. I have gone up to customers and said, this is not the right fit for us. We're not going to have a good partnership, because what's going to happen is, in peer pressure or whatever, you're going to end up buying our CDP. You're going to not implement for the next 2 years. You're going to hate us. You're going to dump us. And then you're going to put bad reviews out there. That's lose-lose for everyone, right? We don't want to be in that position. Nobody wants to be in that position. All we are doing, asking our customers is, can you give us a review on Gartner? Can you talk to us on G2? Can you tell us more on this forum, that place, and whatnot, right? So you want success stories. You don't want failures. So and this is very important, especially when it comes to some of these technologies that we've been talking about, and composable hits the mark in every way possible. Sorry, I'm just looking at the time. I don't want to go over or under. But at the same time, when you're talking about composable CDPs, you gotta be a bit careful. And the reason that I say that is, I've had this prospect come up and say, you know, composable CDP, zero data of movement, green CDP. And this was, we were working on a French deal, and I am very happy to say that France is doing a lot in terms of sustainability and in terms of finding places where you can reduce what my Japanese co-founder says, muda, which is futility, right? They'll be like, no, if we are okay without moving data, we are more than happy. And that's an amazing approach. But the one thing that is missed out into the weeds in the details of a composable CDP, where they say it's a green CDP, is that it's kind of untrue. Because even though, let's assume in this case that this particular prospect is sitting on Snowflake, all of their data is on Snowflake, and they say a CDP is going to come and place itself on top of this. That CDP doing reverse ETL is still going to take data out, do some process, and put it back into a different bucket of Snowflake. That's data duplication right there. Right? This is kind of lost in the weed. People don't talk about what ends up happening, and I'm not saying that it is the case, but your Snowflake instance increases, grows, and then Snowflake is in a better position to recommend this CDP, because that's the reason that they've grown twice, thrice, 4 times. Right? So the green in the definition doesn't remain to be green. It just remains to be, we're not moving your data from one place to another, pulling it, making changes, pushing it back down into a separate place. So be aware when you're working and talking to green CDPs and composable CDPs. Another thing with them is that they claim to be cheaper with a lot of real-time functionality. They are cheaper, but again, they're putting the onus on the fact that you need to pay more to Snowflake, you need to also bring in Fivetran, DBT, I don't know, reverse ETL, BI tool. What you're doing overall is while you're selling a small, cheaper value product, there are a lot of different components that you're not keeping in your mind or you're not taking responsibility for in the definition of a packaged software. That's what a CDP is meant to be. That's why I said I will be challenging those when it comes to that. Anyway, so there's a lot of different pieces of this, but like I said, if somebody has come to a maturity level in their journey, they've put everything in Azure, Snowflake, wherever it is, they've done their homework, they've taken Fivetran, they have already built in DBT, some workflows are running already. It's amazing. Just go for something that just sits on top and your life would be a lot easier. The pro tip here is you compare all the elements of the pricing structure as well as the feature functionality. All right, we got 2 more left, and then I think we could open it up to questions or comments or whatever. Scenario 5 is a rather simpler one. Again, it sort of touches very briefly on this concept of business value realization, right? A lot of times, prospects come up to us and say, look, we have these use cases and we need to roll it out. Okay, sounds good. And these are the core of our use cases. And we have a team working in our company that's called a business value team. We usually ask them to just first go in and be the frontline warriors here and evaluate what their use cases are. So the first thing we do is start gathering use cases, do a business value workshop, and when you start prioritizing these use cases, the functionality that they have asked for doesn't go hand in hand with their use cases to begin with. Maybe they're looking for something that would be good to have 2 years from now, but they've put it as one of their core functionalities, and so when you're evaluating against that, this CDP comes down short. So one of the most important lessons here is prioritize your use case, have a value against use case model to make sure that if you have desirable use cases that you want to implement, just, again, crawl, walk, run. That's the approach. All right, last one. This is just about a lot of times when customers, again, there's nothing wrong about asking these questions. I just find it that you're in a place where sometimes you're either comparing just to gain parity or you're comparing apples to oranges, right? One of the customers or prospects comes up to us and says, can you match the same match rates as DMPs? Like, you're looking at third-party data, which, yes, it's going to go away in the next 1 year, but that's basically saying that I know everybody here because this person knows that person knows this person, and I built that network, which might go away tomorrow, as compared to with CDP, what we're trying to say is build your own network. Come to these sessions, talk one-on-one, and build your own customer first-party data. That's like comparing very different things. What a CDP is really good at is taking that first-party data, then enriching it with third-party data, and then giving you better results. But if somebody just goes to you and says, no, I just want the same results as I was getting with my DMP because the DMP is going away in 6 months. Cookies are going away in 6 months. Do something. Well, you're not comparing the right market. You're not comparing the right use cases. You're not comparing the right things that evaluate a CDP. All right. Another one which was quite funny, I actually worked on this in my post-sales job 6 years ago, was they came up to us and said, look, we are replacing our loyalty solution, and they were already our customers. I was post-sales. We are replacing our loyalty solution. Can you build us one in the meantime? I was working on a CDP. They are very different things. Loyalty is meant to be more reactive. It's meant to be more, okay, you make a transaction, you get a reward, you get these points, and you get this coupon. Something on those lines, And there are different models of loyalty, obviously. But then, when we were not able to deliver the 100% functionality of the loyalty system, we went under review. And I thought that was very unfair to us because we were really judging us on the fact that we are a CDP that should have also done loyalty solutions. We integrate with them, but it's a completely different thing to ask that out of a CDP solution. The point being that when you're doing a parity with your current use cases, please do keep in mind that if you've never had a CDP before, you're basically having a use case of maybe a DMP or a loyalty or a paid media being compared against what a first-party tool can do. So compare apples to apples and always think about privacy. I'm sorry, I completely missed out on the last piece, but today's world and this whole session is about privacy theater, right? And a lot of times people don't think that customer data is, or customer data platforms are responsible for privacy, but I say they are completely wrong. They are the most responsible and the most diligent people to hold and maintain your customers' privacy. Whether it's consent, whether it's anything to do with GDPR, CCPA, whether you have the right to erase your data, a CDP is equally responsible in making sure that it erases data from its system, but also sends it to upstream as well as downstream, because we are the ones who connect to everyone else, isn't it? So it's easier for us to say, CRM source systems 1, this was your ID, go back and delete that data. Google Ads, this was your ID for that same customer, go and delete that data. Obviously, that's not something that comes onto us as the main thing to do, but in your entire evaluation, it's always good to remember that privacy is a very big part of when you select a CDP. I just have a couple more slides. I hope I'm still on time. So in conclusion, you are assessing your requirements, identifying key features, mapping data sources, blah, blah, blah. Main point here being, when you're looking at a CDP, you should be looking at what will give me what I have today and what can give me what I need to achieve in order to be compliant, in order to be customer-centric, and in order to be data first. These are the really important points. Make sure that you're using all of these in your evaluations. Make sure that all of these come across as something, as an important point when you're talking to, when you're talking to vendors, when you're comparing different lists. All of these things lead us to this one last thing, which is a CDP that can provide you the flexibility, being schema-less, being agile, a CDP that can give you efficiency, reduce your marketing optimization spend, help you get more from less, a CDP that can give you security, a CDP that can give you the speed, real-time functionality, API-based functionality, a CDP that can help reduce cost and optimize cost as well, and a CDP that would actually give you a true unified customer view is something that would hopefully satisfy all of the needs that we have spoken about. Thank you so much.